12 minutes before 9 here on the program, and I don't know if many of you have noticed that Sakina Kamwendo comes up with T-shirts in her interviews. She really does. Even in this previous interview, she asked the urologist, and I quote, "So doctor, how long is long?" And I don't know, for me that was another classic Sakina Kamwendo quote on a T-shirt. Seriously, girl? You don't ask a urologist that when you're talking about the things you were talking about. Anyway, I know how long 10 years is, and that's what we're going to be talking about now. Sorry, I had to let you in on the giggles that are happening behind the scenes here. Many of you have seen it on social media. In fact, many of you have participated in it on social media. It's posts about the 10-year challenge. You put up your pictures, and you basically have a look at 10 years when the people put up between 2009 and then 2019. And they basically show how they've bettered themselves, if you can believe it. It's gained a lot of traction. Let's discuss this a little bit further. And from Cape Town via Skype, we've got on the line Wesley Mathew. He's the head of marketing at Meltwater Africa. Wesley, thanks for joining us. Great to have you here on Morning Live.
Thanks so much for having me on, Leanne. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, a question that I would like to know is, do you have any idea where this all started, this 10-year challenge?
Well, it's like most things that originate on the internet. I mean, there is speculation about where it started, but it's not entirely corroborated. The sort of dominant theory, well, let's take a pivot to Facebook. I mean, there's been this conspiracy theory that sort of emerged from the ether that Facebook somehow initiated this themselves in order to gain facial recognition data that they could somehow use against you. I don't particularly subscribe to that theory, and we can dive into that a bit later if you'd like. But another theory is that it was a weatherman out of Oklahoma by the name of Damon Lane. But both of those are uncorroborated. The sort of way I would perceive it is that this is just something like another trend that has sort of picked up momentum as people bought into it. But the initial person that kicked it off, we can't be entirely sure of, unfortunately.
So we talk about it being a trend, and I'm wondering if it's somewhat of a vanity trend, because I haven't as yet seen somebody look better in the 2009 or 2008 pic as compared to the 2019 or 2018. It's like, okay, look at me, look how great I have aged, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, in our data, actually, one of the peripheral conversations that came up was around the actor Paul Rudd. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but this is one of the trends that came out of this trend. But apparently the internet has unilaterally agreed that this gentleman just does not age. So I'd implore you to take a look at his profile and his 10-year challenge pic. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this data. What is your data indicating about this 10-year challenge?
Cool. So, I mean, I think, the first thing is that there have been over 330,000 mentions of the 10-year challenge across social media within the last week alone. And as of right now, the bulk of those have come from India, followed by the United States and then the United Kingdom. But they really have spanned the entire globe. In terms of language, our data shows that English has dominated over about 75% of the conversation, with Spanish coming in at around 9%. And I think what's particularly interesting about these findings is that in a world that's feeling increasingly separated by geographic boundaries or even walls, social media offers this platform to have a truly unimpeded conversation, irrespective of where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I still wonder, you know, if this is all above water. I mean, you said it is. You've said that, you know, you don't see anything sinister about it. But, you know, I mean, is it safe for people to participate in? I suppose maybe this interview is coming too late because I don't know many people who haven't participated in it. But it's not something to, you know, to gain things out of. I mean, like you mentioned, that whole facial recognition thing.
So, I mean, as far as internet challenges go, I'd say that this is considerably safer than, for example, the Tide Pod challenge that took off in the United States, and then more recently the Bird Box challenge, which saw people walking around with blindfolds on. The pictures provided in this challenge tend to have already been publicly accessible, so it's not like people are providing Facebook with some sort of new data set that they can weaponize against you. This was all already, for the most part, available to them. Facebook has this information, irrespective of whether you decide to put a sort of montage together showing yourself then and then now. Although, having said that, I think the conversation that spun off from this around Facebook's potential use of this in some sort of facial recognition strategy is a useful reminder that people need to be more savvy with the information and data that they put out there, and also the access that they grant to that information. And just to sort of give a bit more context around how Facebook could potentially use this information, if we play devil's advocate for a moment and look at that theory as something that might hold water. So as it stands now, there's no legislation in place that would prevent Facebook from actually selling that facial recognition data to a third party, because the laws haven't actually kept up with the times. So the tech is actually developing faster than the legislation. So potentially a situation could arise where Facebook decided to sell that information to a third-party advertiser, for example, and maybe you're walking down the street and a smart poster recognizes you based on that information that they've gleaned from Facebook and presents an advert that it knows will be relevant to you based on your profile. So that would be like the worst case scenario in this sense.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, Matthew, I'm giggling in the back. Wesley, I'm busy giggling in the background. Sorry, at some of the pictures that have come up here. I mean, we had the most hysterical one of Rian Kreyvagen and the meme of him not aging over. I mean, they've got a picture of him from the Renaissance years all the way up until today, and he looks exactly the same. I mean, it is all just a joke, but some of the and here it is. We've just put it up on air again. I mean, it is hysterical. People have got they got a great sense of humor. And then of course the Kris Jenner one. I think he he won the internet on that one. I mean, you can't get better than that.
I think it's between him or Trevor Noah. So if you haven't seen his, I won't give it away, but it's got over 12,000 likes already, so I'd urge you to go and check that one out.
Okay, I'm going to have a look at that one.
For sure.
So we, however, as much as we can laugh at some of them and have a good time sort of looking at them, I think what really hit home was looking at something like WWF. I mean, that was a big one where they're basically showing the impact of global warming, of water shortages, I saw another one, in fact, I think it was on Leonardo DiCaprio's Instagram page, where he was showing how deforestation is also having a major impact over those last 10 years. So, you know, as much as we comparing our faces, there's also the reality that sets in and all of the ice that's melting.
Yeah, no, I think particularly with these challenges, I think a lot of the time they do like to be linked to some sort of social cause. I mean, if we look back to the ice bucket challenge, I mean, there was a more significant meaning behind that. And I think with this challenge, I think people are trying to do the same thing to a certain extent by attaching a more significant, poignant meaning to something that might be on the surface a bit frivolous. So I think trend jacking in that sense, by attaching something that is potentially more relevant to your brand, as the WWF have done in this case, I think is going to play an even more important sort of role within marketing strategies going forward. And I think it's a great way to sort of divert attention towards something that's really important for us. So all in support of that for sure.
Wesley, thanks so much for chatting to us on this Monday morning. Wesley Mathew, Head of Marketing at Meltwater Africa, basically talking to us about some of the 10-year challenge data that's come out of it. It's taken the world by storm. It's all just for fun, and as you saw, it doesn't look like there's anything sinister to it. But the reality is that it really is creating a lot of awareness, particularly when you come and you look at the environment around us. So again, Wesley, thanks so much for your time. All right, we take a break. We'll see you